Hi everybody and welcome back to a new video on my booktube channel, Books with Leo, and today I'm doing one of the most exciting videos of the year, which is my 2021 reading year in review video, where I discuss some statistics about my reading year that I've had the last year, and I also talk about some of my most disappointing books, some of my most surprising reads and stuff like that. I've also found some other questions online that I'm going to be talking about, like what genres do I want to read more next year and like what things I've read this year. I saw a video by LEV, who's I think now changed her channel name, but I'll link it down below. I love her content and she did a sort of similar video, so I looked at some of her questions. I also took some out of the, I think, end of the year book tag. There's also going to be a video with my favourite reads of 2021, but that's not this one. This is just my reading year in review. But before we get into that, I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Book of the Month. I think you're all quite familiar with Book of the Month by now, but they're a very popular and fast growing online book service for readers, and it is their mission to promote new and emerging authors and help you find the books that you love. Their team goes through many new releases and debuts and makes a curated selection so you can spend more time reading and less time researching. I'm very happy to be working with Book of the Month again, as they always have great books to choose from, and if you don't like any of the books that month, still fine, you can skip any month without charge. A little side note though is that currently Book of the Month does not ship outside of the US. I've still decided to partner up with them as I have a big US based audience and I thought those might still be interested in this service. Another plus point with Book of the Month is that they have the best price for new release hardcover fiction, and you can get your first hardcover for only $9.99 with code Leora. So let's get a move on and take a look at this month's books. So first we have Black Cake by Shemaine Wilkerson. This is a moving story about two siblings who went their way to reconciliation after losing their mother. The next pick is Love and Other Disasters by Anita Kelly, and I think this would be my personal pick this month, and yes, it's a rom-com again. This is not just any rom-com, it's a queer rom-com about the first openly non-binary contestant in one of America's favorite cooking shows, who then falls for their clumsy competitor, so that sounds amazing, and there's also a cooking show involved, and I love cooking shows. Then there's Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins, and in this book we read about a couple sailing two women to a remote island in the South Pacific, but that island turns out to have a dark history, and nothing is what it seems in this thriller with gothic suspense. Another option this month is Fiona and Jane by Jean Chen Ho, and this is a coming-of-age book that traces the lives of two young Taiwanese American women as they navigate friendship, sexuality, identity, and heartbreak over 2 decades. Then last but not least, we have The Magnolia Palace by Fiona Davis. This is a tale filled with murder, intrigue, betrayal, and mystery, all about the history of the infamous Frick family. Some books that you can also always pick out of are the add-ons, and this month's highlighted add-on is The Maid by Nita Prose. In this book we follow Molly, a hotel maid who's certain she can solve the murder that has happened right under her nose, and it's a locked room mystery, which is always cool. First-time members can sign up with any book they would like, including the add-ons, so don't forget to head on over to bookofthemonth.com and use my code Leora to get your first book for only $9.99. Now let's finally get talking about my reading year. So what I did, I have some statistics from Goodreads and I exported those and then used those to put them into Storygraph, which is another book reading app, and then Storygraph gave me all of these cool, much more interesting statistics basically, and that is really cool. So I want to talk about those statistics today. I haven't really looked at them, so it's really exciting for me as well, and then I want to talk about some surprising reads, like reads that really caught me off guard, and some disappointing reads, and I'll save the best reads for that other video. Firstly, I've read 111 books this year, which is quite a lot. It's not as much as last year, because last year I read I think 150 books, which is a personal record, really. That's crazy. And I do want to say I like partly read for a living because booktube is also sort of my job, so like this is I think not really a normal amount of books to read, but I do really enjoy reading, and I'm happy I read like such a funny number like 111. I know that's a weird thing to be happy about, but personally pleases me greatly. Also, I was thinking actually all around the year that I hadn't read a lot of books that I really liked, but then when I was preparing this video I was like, wait, I actually had a lot of books this year that I really enjoyed, and I just was thinking very negatively. So that's on me. Okay, so I've read 32,901 pages this year. This took me so long to say just because that number is really difficult for me. It's not fully completed in Storygraph. It says I only read 109 books. I don't know why, because I've updated it, so I don't know what happened, but I knew the actual page count and like the amount of books from my Goodreads. So a cool thing that Storygraph does is it makes this little like pie chart of all of your moods. So like the moods in the books that you've read. One of the biggest moods of the books I've read was adventurous, which is like really, I did not see that coming. And then comes lighthearted and mysterious. Okay. Emotional, reflective, funny, informative. Okay, so I can understand adventurous. I do think I read a lot of adventurous books. 41 books I've read last year were categorized as adventurous. Okay, so some of them are The Ex-Hex, The Witch Haven, The Rearranged Life of Una Lockhart, Alice from Dream to Dream, The Atlas Six, Giant Days, The Oracle Year. Okay, I can see how all of these books are sort of adventurous. The Mad Ship by Robin Hobb, A Sprinkle of Sorcery, Fence, Volume 1. I wouldn't really say that's an adventurous book, but okay. Interesting. I am not sure if this is as interesting to you guys as it is to me. And then Mysterious. I've read 31 mysterious books, apparently. Lonely Castle in the Mirror. I guess that book is kind of mysterious. Not really, though. Poston of Fate by Agatha Christie. That's definitely mysterious. The Ghost Garden by Emma Carroll. Okay, I can understand. A Castle in the Clouds. Is that really a mysterious book? I don't know. But okay. I'll take it, it's fine. I also find it really funny that lighthearted is in there as a mood because honestly, yeah, I do try to read a lot of lighthearted books because I don't want to be sad. So that's funny. Okay, the pace of the books. So most of the books I read had a fast pace. So 49% of them had a fast pace. And then 33% had a medium pace and 18% had a slow pace. I feel like I usually do like slow paced books. So I'm not sure what happened there, but let's take a look. So 51 books were fast-paced, and they say The Marvels, The Ex-Hex, Giant Days, Ghost Garden, After All These Years by Susan Isaacs, Bury the Lead, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Yeah, so a lot of like more the mystery suspense novels I read fall into this category, and also some of the fantasy that I've read, so I see where they're coming from. I'm interested though to see what they think of as like slow books. Lonely Castle in the Mirror, that was definitely a slow book. If you're into slow books, you'll love that. Poston of Fate, The Atlas Six. The Mad Ship is very slow, but good, so good. Page number. So most of the books I've read, which is 48%, had 300 up until 499 pages. That's actually high, that's a lot of pages. And then 6% of the books I read had 500 or more pages, and 45% of the books I read had less than 300 pages. That's really interesting. It's a good mix, I'd say. Okay, then non-fiction was only 13% of the books I read. I still feel like that's quite a good segment. Like, I feel proud of myself. Like, I learned things in that 13%. And then 87% was fiction. I mean, that's not a big surprise. I think we all know. I read mostly fiction. And of course, you can also learn lots of things of fiction. Ooh, genres. Okay, so you can also see the genres. So the top genre is fantasy, which is not surprising. I guess I do read a lot of fantasy, but still, when I was preparing this video and I was trying to think of like, what books do I want to read in the next year, I was like, fantasy. I want to read more fantasy. And then I saw this chart and I was like, I read a lot of fantasy already, but I just want to read more fantasy. Then the next top genre is young adult, and this feels kind of like, yeah, young adult has many genres within the genre, so that doesn't really say a lot. And then romance is the third one, which is funny. I don't think that was the case like a few years ago, but now it is. So that's really great. I think like romance is just like my feel good. It makes me happy and stuff. So yeah, that's just what I love reading. Then contemporary, and then next is LGBTQIA+. Then comics is actually also quite high up there. And then we get middle grade, historical, mystery, children's, feminism, graphic novel, thriller. There's lots and lots of genres in there. Magical realism is also quite a cool one that I'd like to read more of. Speculative fiction, short stories, sports. What book did I read that categorizes as sports? Oh, Fence, of course. How did I forget? The format. So 92% of the books I read was printed, then 7% was digital, and 1% was audiobooks. I don't think that's actually accurate because I don't really look at like the type of book I select on Goodreads. I know you can select like when it's the audiobook and when it's not, but I don't usually do that. So I don't think this is correct. Oops. Oh my god, it makes a chart of your most read authors. So the top one is John Allison, and that's just because I've read a lot of Giant Days comic series this year. So that's the only reason John Allison is at the top. And then Max Seren, who also writes graphic novels. Then Kerstin Gier, that's because I reread the entire Ruby Red trilogy, and then I've also read, what is it called, Castle in the Clouds this year. Whitney Koga. I don't actually know who that is. Like, how did she get up there? I think maybe she's the translator. Who's this lady? She also wrote Giant Days. And then Michelle Harrison, Alice Oseman, Jessica Townsend, and Lee Bardugo are also in there. And also Kieran Quigley. And I don't know who that is either. Same for Liz Fleming. I'm guessing both of them write graphic novels. Yes, they all work on Giant Days. Okay, that makes sense. Ooh, this is really interesting to see as well. So it kind of shows how many pages I was reading progressing throughout the year each month. It really shows that in September and August, I was doing a lot of reading. And June also has a little bit of peak, same with February. That's interesting. There's 5 books that I gave 2 stars this year, which is actually pretty good. And then there's 39 books that I gave 3 stars, 36 books that I gave 4 stars, and then there is 23 books that I gave 5 stars. Oh my god, that's quite a lot actually. I'm very happy for me that I read so many books I really liked, apparently. Okay, so those are all the statistics that Storygraph had in store for me. It was really fun to see those for a bit, and now I want to talk more about some of the books I read this year that I really enjoyed, or didn't enjoy so much. So my most surprising reads, one of them is definitely One Carefree Day by Whitney Amazine, which is about a girl dealing with an anxiety disorder, sort of preparing herself to go to therapy because she doesn't really want to go to therapy, but then one of her friends helps her get more into the idea of therapy. There were some issues with this book. I've talked about it before in my March wrap-up, but this book really surprised me because I picked it up on a whim and I didn't really expect to like it so much, but I'm always on the lookout for more young adult books about mental health and about anxiety in particular, and I really enjoyed this one, so I was really happy that I picked it up. And then also What If by Randall Munroe, which is a book that talks about lots and lots of sort of scientific ideas and like questions like, what if this would happen, like what would that mean and what would that do? And normally I am interested in science, but I always feel like kind of scares me off, like, oh god, that's really complicated, I'm not going to get into that. But Randall Munroe made it so understandable and funny and like quirky in his novel that I really liked it, so that was also quite a surprising read. And then The Black Flamingo by Dean Atter. I did expect to like this book, but I didn't expect to like it as much as I did. I listened to it on audiobook and it was just so impactful, and I always love coming of age stories, so it was no surprise that I would also like The Black Flamingo, but mostly like the way it was written, like sort of that spoken word format. I didn't expect to love that as much, and it was just really beautiful and really well done, so I really enjoyed that book. But my most disappointing reads, I narrowed this down to only a few books. And one of those is The Season of the Witch by Sarah Rees Brennan, which is sort of a prequel to the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina TV show, but then like in written novel form, and I just thought it wasn't good. Like, I think it gave it 3 stars or 2 stars. I did kind of like it at the time, and I didn't give it too bad of a review, but now looking back on it, like, it was so underwhelming and it was so not what I hoped to get out of it, and like there were too many characters and there was too much stuff going on, and it just... no, did not like it very much. Another book that was also quite disappointing to me was The Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake. I really loved this when I started reading it, but then as I progressed, I kind of got lost and I was like not sure what was going on and whether I liked it, and I was just like, why? What is happening? What is going on? I do not get it. And that was just disappointing to me because I had high hopes for this book, especially when I just started reading it. So yeah, I'm kind of conflicted on this one, honestly. And also a book that was really a bit disappointing to me was City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. I really wanted to like this book, and like it wasn't bad or anything. Like, I think I would still recommend it to loads of people who are into fantasy, but just for me, like, I don't know, I just kind of didn't really click with it. Unfortunately, I had to take a little break because my camera battery was empty, so if anything has changed in the background, that is why. Sorry. Such a professional YouTuber. Try my best, guys. I try my best. As I was saying, City of Brass just wasn't really my thing. The pacing felt a little bit off. Like, there was a lot of action and then there wouldn't be anything going on and then there would be a lot of action again, and I don't know, it just kind of wasn't really my thing. I think that's also because I'm slightly mortified of the desert, and there was a lot of desert stuff in this, and like on the one hand it was very fantastical and interesting, but I just... not my thing. So that book was a little bit disappointing to me because I was kind of hoping to really like it. Not sure why. I think mostly because so many people love this series so much, and I just felt kind of sad that I didn't. So like I said briefly already, I wanted to discuss a genre I want to read more of next year. When this question first came up, I just really wanted to say fantasy, but like we've seen before, I've already read loads of fantasy. It's just a genre I really enjoy. Next year, I would really like to read more historical fiction because I've read a few historical fiction books in 2021 and I actually really enjoyed them, and it made me remember how much I enjoy this genre and enjoy being like in a different time for a bit. And I think this just closely kind of connects to my love for time travel books as well, so it's like all kind of in there. And another genre I would like to explore more is murder mysteries and crime novels, thrillers. These are genres I already regularly read in, but still, I would like to read more of them. But probably I will still read a lot of fantasy and a lot of romance, and I'm totally okay with that too, because both of those are genres that I really enjoy. Then I wanted to talk about one of the books with the most beautiful prose that I've read this year, and that is definitely On Earth We're Briefly Gorgeous by Ocean Vuong. Now, this book wasn't entirely my cup of tea, mostly because it's a very hard read, it's very sad. The subjects being discussed in this, and sexuality and abuse, are just not like very fluffy, lighthearted things, but it's a very important read, and I think the prose is one of the most beautiful things I've ever read, so I definitely wanted to mention this book. Then I do want to talk about some books that made me happy this year, because those are my favourite type of reads, definitely. So the first ones I want to talk about are Wondersmith and Hollowpox, which are parts 2 and 3 in the Morrigan Crow series. I've also read part 1, Nevermore. I've reread it again this year, and it was definitely my favourite reread of the year, I think. This is a middle grade fantasy series about Morrigan Crow and her journey on discovering who she really is, because she's a cursed child at the beginning, but then it turns out she has powers and she has to do this entrance exam into this magical school, and then we follow her journey throughout the magical school. If you love those types of settings and like magical middle grades, would highly recommend this series. I want to recommend it to anybody because it's so good and I really, really loved it. I had another book that I wanted to talk about, and I feel like I had it, like I was holding it, I had it on my pile, but it's just vanished into thin air. I don't know where it went. I'm losing my mind. Another book I wanted to talk about was Fat Lip by Hannah O'Donnell, which is an essay collection by Hannah O'Donnell, who's also one of my friends, so that's maybe good to know. But I really, really enjoyed this read, and I just think Hannah is such a fantastic writer, and this is just one of those books that really, really made me happy. If you like essay collections and if you like short stories, then I would highly recommend it. It's very funny. If you're still dating, then it's also very relatable, and just make me laugh out loud and have a good time. So that's definitely a read that made me very happy, and also the bits that she talks about body positivity are very important. And yeah, just a book I would highly recommend. Another book that made me feel quite comforted in like a weird way, I think, was Heart Talk by Cleo Wade. And I must say, I didn't really love all of the poetry in this book, but some of them just really, like, I don't know, they just kind of hit me right in the heart, and I just felt very comforted. And I think this is a great book for feeling comforted. So I would highly recommend it for that purpose. Another book that made me feel really joyful was Instructions for Dancing by Nicola Yoon. This is a book about seeing like the joy in love again, and it's also sort of like paranormal romance-esque. Like, I mean, like the main character has like some psychic abilities. So don't expect anything Twilight-esque. It really made me see that even if there's a lot of negative in life, it still weighs up to the positive, and it just made me feel really, really happy. I also did cry a little, but that's because I'm a little Cancer moon that sobs at everything. And then another romance read that made me so happy was Written in the Stars, which is a story about two girls who do some fake dating to convince their families they're dating somebody, and it's just then they fall in love, and it's just wonderful and beautiful and make me so happy. And I really want to read the other book in this series, which follows, I think, one of the main characters' brother as well. I want to read it so badly, so I really will in the next year. This is one that I thought was really fun, which is a book you made all of your friends read this year. For me, that's definitely Word Slot by Amanda Montell, and maybe also Cultish by Amanda Montell. I discovered Amanda Montell's writing this year, and I love her blend of like funny personal anecdotes, but then also like non-fiction and learning about different topics and feminism and cults, and just loved her writing, so I recommended that to like anybody. The same goes for Ghosts by Dolly Alderton, and also All I Know About Love by Dolly Alderton. I think I will be discussing these both probably in my favourites video. I'm not sure though, I haven't made the final list yet because it's hard out here. But I really like both of these books. They were so relatable, and I just think Dolly's writing also has something that is comforting but also kind of raw, and it just makes you see that life is beautiful and so funny, and it's healthy to laugh at yourself sometimes. This was kind of unintentional, like I didn't really try to recommend this book to anybody, but it really sort of just happened, and that was Plain Bad Heroines by Emily M. Denforth. I have a copy here. This is a gothic novel with lots of sapphic people in there, and it's really wonderful. I'm kind of conflicted on it because on the one hand I felt like the plot kind of fizzled out, but on the other hand I had such a great time, and then I did kind of keep on talking about it, so it must have impressed me somehow. And I did recommend this to a lot of people, even though I didn't really try to, but it still made me happy that you all read it. And this is definitely an amazing gothic suspense novel with like lots of great gothic-y vibes. And then I thought maybe something that's also funny to discuss is a book you read because of a friend, and for me that was definitely The Atlas 6 because my best friend read it, and she didn't like it, and still I was like, yeah, but I will like it. I just feel like I will. And I kind of liked it, but I didn't like it as much as I wanted to. This is a theme in this video. Anyway, yeah, we've already talked about that. So basically that was my reading year in review video. I feel like it was all over the place, but that's always the case on this channel. Why does that rhyme? What is going on? Anyway, I hope you guys had a great time. I also hope you had a great reading year and you read lots of amazing things. Please let me know down below what you've read last year that you would highly recommend to me, and let me know what you thought of this video. I always highly appreciate your comments and they just make me very happy. Thank you so much for yet another great year on BookTube. If you don't know what to comment, just leave some cute book emojis. And yeah, I'll see all of you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye!